about to start, I'd like to invite the members of the panel to join me on stage. Our Comrade Party Leader, Mr. Dennis Gordon, Mr. Andre Hilton. Ladies and gentlemen, we're also welcoming former Prime Minister, Mr. P.J. Patterson, as he makes his way into the room. Please give him a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to stand for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you so much. You may be seated.
Let us pray. Gracious and eternal Father, we thank you for this opportunity to convene, to learn, to engage in meaningful dialogue, and to reflect on the vital issues that shape our nation and our destiny. As we gather here for this pivotal symposium, to delve into the profound insights to be shared by former Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, we ask for your guidance, for your wisdom to guide his mind. Open our hearts to the truths we seek to uncover on the importance of remembering our history, honoring those who have paved the way for our present, and ensuring that the lessons of our past are not lost. May we approach this topic with respect and a commitment to accuracy, ensuring that we do not forget the narratives that shape our history. Grant us the clarity to to understand the truths of our history and the courage to confront them. And may we honor the experiences of those who came before us, ensuring that their stories are remembered and valued. Grant us the wisdom to listen deeply, the courage to speak honestly, and the strength to foster understanding among all participants. Let this symposium be a space of learning, reflection, reconciliation, and a beacon of hope, guiding us toward a future where we learn from the past and strive for a better tomorrow. We ask your blessings that we may foster an environment of respect and understanding, inspire reflection, progress, unity in our nation, and a commitment to getting the record straight, lest we forget. Continue to give eternal rest, O Lord, to your son Michael, servant leader, and Chedi Jagan, who today departed this life 28 years ago. Bless Michael's family, biological and political, and may they continue to cherish his legacy of love, service, and nation building. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord, who taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Kingsley Asphalt, for those very moving words. And let me say once again, welcome to Let's Get the Record Straight, lest we forget. So my name is Annalise Harewood, and I'll be your Master of Ceremonies this evening, and it is my distinct pleasure to be hosting this evening's symposium. This evening promises to be an evening filled with wisdom, history, thoughts, and expressions, and will no doubt help us to set the record straight. So, before we begin, let me first recognize some distinguished persons who are here with us this evening. Mr. Mark Golding, Leader of the Opposition, the Most Honorable P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister, members of the Shadow Cabinet, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of the Senate, members of the House of Representatives and former members, especially those with us from Region 3, Mr. Philip Paulwell, Mr. Julian Robinson, and Mr. Anthony Hilton. We also have with us His Worship, the Mayor of Kingston, Councillor Andrew Swaby, along with other councillors present. I'd like to also welcome members of the party's executive. I believe they are still on their way, but we are expecting our chairman, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, and our General Secretary, Dr. Dayton Campbell, as well as members of the People's National Party. Welcome to Mr. Andre Hilton, Chairman of the PNP's Outreach Commission and Chief Curator of this evening's event. Mr. Dennis Gordon also here with me on stage. He is chairman of Region 3. And of course, Mr. Carl Blake, the outreach chairman for Region 3 and other invited groups, guests, and of course our viewers online. So now we're going to get started, and I'm going to invite Mr. Dennis Gordon to do the official welcome.
Thank you, Madam Master of Ceremonies. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, comrades, it is my great honor and privilege to welcome you to Region 3's symposium. Let's get the record straight and presentation of our new candidates. Comrade Leader, Comrade Mark Golding, and the next Prime Minister of Jamaica, the Most Honorable Percival Noel James Patterson, ON, OSOC, KC, Jamaica's 6th Prime Minister and former leader of the People's National Party. The region salutes you, sir. As a statesman, P.J. Patterson had left an indelible mark on Jamaican history. He served as Prime Minister and leader for a party from 1992 to 2006. When he retired undefeated, his period at the wicket is still the finest to date. In every respect, it was an innings of genius. Sir, West Indies cricket would be delighted to find someone with your productivity at a time when runs come at a premium. Well played. Comrade Patterson, your commitment to education, economic growth, infrastructure, and social development has been unwavering and unmatched. Thank you. You have demonstrated exceptional leadership skills throughout your illustrious career, guiding Jamaica through significant challenges and milestones. Your dedication to nation well-being has earned you numerous accolades and recognition as a global icon. But yet, you remain humble and committed to the mission you started. Thank you, sir. As we gather today, we pay tribute to one of our finest sons, remarkable contribution to Jamaica's transformation. We celebrate and embrace your vision, wisdom, and tireless efforts to see a better future for all Jamaicans. Please join me in extending a warm Region 3 welcome to the Most Honorable P.J. Patterson, ON, OCC, KC. We are so privileged to have you with us today to guide and inspire us simply by getting the record straight, lest we forget. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gordon. And I now, in the interest of moving things along, invite Mr. Andre Hilton, Chairman of the PNP's Outreach Commission, to give an overview of this evening's program.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I'm very close to some powerful women. And when we get into this thing about chairman, one such lady says, just keep it as chair when we are referring to the females, you know. So I'm learning. Happy to see everyone. It's really nice. I was a little bit, not saying nervous, but concerned about the turnout at this hour of the evening, but I'm very delighted to see you all here this evening. I want it to be an educational evening, a fun evening, a fellowship. We need to interact with each other, and I was so happy to see the party leader moving through the room. He's really a politician, boy. Work the room, you know, that's so great. Give him a round of applause. And of course, Comrade Patterson needs, there's just so many accolades, but, I tell you, when the party leader asked me to serve as outreach chairman, which I did a few years ago, and I told Comrade Patterson, he was as excited as I was, and gave me some very insightful directions. And I really admire him for his stewardship and his mentorship. And of course, our party leader, who I've known him long before I even got into politics. So, we're here to work together. The Outreach Commission was set up primarily to attract us Jamaicans who do not necessarily go to a political meeting, but wants to be a part of the decision making of their country. They want to understand what this People's National Party is about. So sometimes we have to organize events like these, where we can sit in this kind of so-called private atmosphere and discuss what the policies of the PNP are, and also in terms of looking forward and where we go. So I'm very happy that you have all turned up. And it's a very nice, intergenerational kind of thing. We have the young, we have the not so young. I don't know what Damien fall under now, if you're young or old, but I don't know. You're getting there. Join me in the group. We've also done a lot of projects, and just to give you an idea, we did one in Montego Bay, similar with Comrade Patterson. This is the second in it looks like it's going to become a series. We need to discuss it with him and the leader. But we've done various backyards. Patricia is here, Stacy is here, Julian is here. They do a lot of little backyard things with people, sometimes 10, 20 persons. If you want to do that, please feel free to contact me, and we will ensure that that is done. We have also had the Sigma Run. We've gone through that. We had a lot of people walking, and we were so happy and elated to have the party leader joining us. And a man said me there and said, boy, the party leader never run. I said, what is he running for? The man is cool and relaxed. He's walking to the finish line. He's fully confident. He's a labourite, But I tell him we think about run, but we have the thing under control. But this evening's event is really it's all about context, content, and of course correctness. In Montego Bay, when we had that Region 6 meeting, I tell you, it really opened my eye, and the individuals that were there were they were so fulfilled. We had young people, 6 farmers coming to the meeting, and afterwards I was interacting with them, and they were just so astonished as to the level of achievements and where the party is and where the party is going. They were very excited. So I'd like to say, sit back, relax. When you leave here this evening, please take the message with you. When you leave here this evening, if you wish to have any little get-together, or somebody just told me about a church service a while ago, said, let's talk. Because we want to bring the PNP to the people and the people to the PNP. Right, Comrade Chair? So thank you all for coming, and let's just really have a rich evening this evening. Thank you.
We could not have found a better chairman of the Outreach Commission. Do you agree? And this man is forever young. He was there when I never turned 28 and was attending a commission function, and just as sprightly. So they never chose a better man. However, now to the keynote address, and believe me, it is my distinct pleasure to be able to introduce this statesman who, I will tell you, said to us earlier, keep it short. So, 4 pages, here I go. So it is a distinct honor to introduce a statesman, a visionary leader, and one of the most influential figures in Jamaica's history, the Most Honorable P.J. Patterson. We say, P.J., Mr. Patterson is Jamaica's longest-serving Prime Minister, having led the nation from 1992 to 2006 during a period of significant economic transformation, social progress, and diplomatic leadership on the global stage. A distinguished legal mind and dedicated public servant, he played a pivotal role in modernizing Jamaica's infrastructure, Highway 2000. We say Mr. Infrastructure. He was also pivotal in advancing education and strengthening the democratic institutions that we all enjoy today. Beyond our borders, he remains a towering figure in Caribbean integration, having been a champion of regionalism, a driving force behind CARICOM's deepening ties, and a strong advocate for the interests of the Global South. Today, we are privileged to hear from a leader whose wisdom and experience continue to shape our national and regional discourse. Please join me in welcoming the Most Honorable Percival James Patterson. We say, PJ.
Thank you for granting me the privilege of age to make my presentation seated. Symposium Chair, Party Leader Mark Golding, officers of the People's National Party, members of Parliament, candidates, Your Worship the Mayor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, last but obviously not least, comrades. A few weeks ago, I stepped out of the pavilion in Montego Bay. That was in response to an invitation from the Outreach Committee of Region 6. As you have heard, the purpose of the Outreach Commission, of which I was the founding chair, its purpose was to extend the party's span beyond its core membership. Please remember, we are the national party. I've been watching the sustained campaign to rewrite history and to denounce the exemplary record of the PNP during the decades of the 70s and the 90s. They have sought to demonize successive PNP administrations and to vilify its leaders, Comrade Michael Manley, Comrade Portia Simpson Miller, and in my case, because Mr. Percy had no mercy in taking the trifecta. Their motive is clear. They want to falsify history and poison the minds of those in the electorate who were not aware of what happened and when, and who haven't made the effort to learn. Father Asphalt is familiar with that portion of the scriptures which says to everything, there's a time and a season. Time come to set the record straight. Time come to remind Jamaica of our memorable accomplishments, lest we forget. Those of you who know me realize that personal attacks or abuse have never prevented me from doing what duty demands, or forced me into silence when my voice must be heard, and they never will. I have to ask myself, my presentation in Montego Bay, when I refrained from drawing out the political long handle, as I previously used to do, what is it that caused some persons to be so upset? Was it that I had mentioned that at a time when it was not required by law, I made my returns to the Integrity Commission public? I started with 5 bank accounts and I ended with 5. I reminded the meeting that there was somebody who said they were going to make Jamaica safe and we could sleep with our windows and doors open. And I said, nobody in Jamaica can feel safe in the present situation. Who can question that? I said not only are the levels of crime high, intolerably high, but the ferocity of those crimes is without precedent. And you only have to think of what has taken place in Clarendon, both in the hills and on the plains. Crime can't be a political football. And I said then, and I repeat today, we are encouraged somewhat that there's a drop this year, but we have to go much further. I would have thought that the response to that statement would be to ask, how do we get total national unity to fight the monster of crime? How do we make sure that the entire nation gives support to the security forces and the agencies in the relentless fight? Because that is absolutely necessary. I said our roads are in a state of dilapidation, of disrepair never seen before. And for a boy who come from country, I said not even in the days of pure rockstone roads. I asked what has happened to the road maintenance fund that we built. I have said we build highways and we know how to build them. Look at the new highway to St. Thomas. One person who has some knowledge of the law in attacking me asked, how is it that in my time we never completed or advanced constitutional reform? And I remember when I started to practice and I went across the Norman Manley's chambers, taking his wig and gown out of locker room number 1. He said to me, refrain from asking a witness a question if the answers will destroy your case. How does that apply? I'm going to say what we did. Before Michael departed, he had started the process which allowed me in May of 1992 to set up a constitutional commission charged with revisions of the Constitution, chaired by the Honorable Mr. Justice Sewell Carr of blessed memory. First thing, if you're going to do national consultations, don't ask an activist politician to lead the process. They went all around the island, genuine consultations. They made recommendations. The Jamaica Labour Party did not sign the report. The work was completed, chaired by Dr. Lloyd Barnett. When that was done, I set up a parliamentary committee chaired by the Honorable David Corr. They took it way down the line towards the tape. After this process, which has just ended, any changes they have made are in one direction and one direction only. They want to vest more power in the executive arm. They want to vest more power in the Prime Minister. They want to enable certain amendments to proceed without 2/3 majority in both houses. I don't have to say anything here about the lunacy of leaving the King's crown but remaining in the King's court. Because the court could decide in an appropriate motion what are the consequences of your having left, which would be regarded as detrimental to the interests of the country in which the Privy Council is cited. I said then, I would never, ever agree to the head of state being chosen in a manner which makes that person beholden to a simple majority vote. Now, what the person who asked the question or posed the problem didn't know, because he wasn't there at the time. We were ready to go when, after the 1997 elections, coming up to 2002, there was one outstanding matter, and that is whether it was 2/3 of both houses voting separately or 2/3 of everybody voting. In the committee, we proposed 2/3 of everybody voting together. But it didn't take me long when it came back to me to say that couldn't spin. I have always operated on a simple principle. Any law you are going to pass, think of how you would react to it in opposition. And if you find it repugnant, then you cannot expect the opposition to agree to it, or you should not. And these people are operating as though they are going to be in government in perpetuity. We are a democratic party. When we wanted to move from an executive president to a ceremonial plus president, I had to come to annual conference and ask the delegates permission to make that move. The search for national consensus must be the foundation of constitutional reform, not partisan advantage. There's one thing, or one of the things I learned sitting at the feet of Norman Manley. Much as any leader seeks political power, one must always love Jamaica more. And there are many people who are upset to this day with certain decisions that Norman Manley took, but those decisions were all in the interest of the nation, not confined to the interests of our party which he led. One of the reasons why we moved towards a ceremonial plus president is our experience in the 1980s. And particular when we saw the prospect that this country was going to break in two along political lines. And it is to their everlasting credit that both Michael Manley and Edward Siaga accepted that we had to pull back from over the brink. As a consequence, they set up a committee, and I can share with you the personal animosity between the two leaders was so high that the only way they could find a solution was to ask Mr. Shearer on one side and me on the other side to lead the two delegations, of course reporting to the two leaders. And we set up what was then the Electoral Advisory Committee, which has morphed into the Electoral Commission. We want it entrenched in the new constitution. But if you want to really understand how well that commission has performed, think back to 2016 when the results came out 32 to 31. And within a few days of those results, a new government was sworn into power, and she has never gotten enough credit for this. Portia Simpson Miller was seated on the platform as the outgoing Prime Minister. So now, I am alarmed when unilaterally, they take the decision to move the office of the public defender, public ombudsman, the political ombudsman into the Electoral Commission. First of all, it's a conflict of interest. By its very nature, you cannot put the body which is responsible for ensuring free and fair elections into a situation where they have to be taking a position that involves differences between both sides. That's my first point. But my second point, and more significantly, what fills me with such alarm is that the moment one side decides to change the Electoral Commission's powers without consultation, you're opening the door. And I'm going to share something with you which I wrote, which I have spoken about before, but just to get you to understand why my concern. When we were coming up to the 1993 elections, the EAC, as it then was, asked permission, said that they were recommending an external mission to observe elections. And when we considered it in cabinet, first of all, it was not within their legal remit. We considered it in the cabinet, and we decided no, we weren't going to allow it. And then again, I thought a little bit more. People a lot of times misunderstand me. When I speak, I try to speak clearly, and I don't want to have to withdraw it. And I have always learned, engage the head before you engage your mouth. So when I thought about it, I said, although it is not within their remit, if I refuse their unanimous recommendation, the next time they make a recommendation, Mr. Siaga might refuse it. Therefore, I go along with their recommendation. I had to go back to my cabinet, some of them are here, and I had to persuade them. And in the end, I had to say to them, give me this one. And they agreed. Consequence, the Carter Commission came. It certified that the elections were free and fair, but it also pointed to some weaknesses. One of which was that when you had polling stations that were voted out, it did not reflect the will of the whole constituency. We wanted to have one person, one vote. So we looked at it and we devised the creation of somebody on the Electoral Commission. We entrusted them with the power, when such a thing arises, to declare those polling stations null and void and to have it over again. And I wonder if the present incumbent in West Central St. Andrew realized that he would be nowhere but for that introduction. And we had to do it not once, but twice. Now, you see what is already brewing between the Electoral Commission and the government. And all I would say is this. In 1967, I really learned from the JLP what gerrymandering was. But I never knew that you could gerrymander a whole parish. And again, all I would say, because I don't want to give any clue to anybody, there are some constitutional issues which will arise. And I miss the days when I could put on my gown and say, see you in court. Today, March 6th, was deliberately chosen. It is 28 years since the passing of the great Michael Manley. No one since the grant of universal adult suffrage has done more than he did during what I call an irreversible era of social transformation. Time and space will not allow me to go into the details of his achievements. As I said elsewhere, Sparrow Martin in the message says it best. But especially for the benefit of those who are too young to know, it is necessary for me to highlight a few of the giant steps we took during the 1970s to make every man woman or child smaddy. Lest we forget. Michael's passion was the building of a just society, one designed to ensure that every man, woman, and child would have an equal chance in life. We start with the Status of Children Act, which we refer to in common talk, no bastard, no day again, that provided equality for children in the sight of God, of man, and of the law, that dealt with rights of children born out of wedlock when their parents pass. He introduced maternity leave with pay, equal pay for women. Perhaps one of the most outstanding in English common law jurisprudence was the abolition of the Master and Servant Act. Until then, as in the days of slavery, employees were regarded as the property of their masters. The very term is repugnant. The introduction of the Labor Relations and Industrial Disputes Act, the right to a job is property, which entitles the person to reinstatement. I hear whispers in some quarters about removing redundancy payments. And I say simply, don't anybody dare to go there. I notice with pleasure that the People's National Party has already pledged to make the legislative changes to afford full protection in the service industries, whether it be tourism, security guards, BPO workers, and the whole range of people who are working basically on contracts and can be terminated at will without any benefits. I can't resist the temptation to say, juke them with Jamal. The liberating power of literacy cannot be exaggerated. I speak about the extension of the 2,000 free scholarships which Norman Manley gave, which I contend is one of the most revolutionary steps that was taken up till then. Michael went further to the tertiary level. And I say simply, no matter what they say, the legacy of Michael Norman Manley will be cherished in perpetuity. The word was love. and forever shall be. Now, I come to set the record straight. And I want to talk about the era from 80 to 89. We now have had access to the documents in Washington which establish beyond doubt the role of the CIA in destabilizing the Michael Manley administration. We know what triggered the presidential authorization. We know who were the principal contacts in the Jamaica Labour Party. We know the local groups and corporate entities that became the agents and tools for the overthrow with that massive defeat that we suffered 51-9. After that, and some of you are present, the People's National Party, as it always does, had some introspection to do. Not about our mission, not about our purpose, but about the methods by which we fulfill the sacred mission of the People's National Party. And that had to be done in light of the dramatic changes in the international environment, and it was soon to be followed by the disappearance of a bipolar world. The winds of globalization and the market economy had reached hurricane category 5 strength. The PNP had to rethink the role of the state in economic development while maintaining its steadfast commitment to providing equal opportunity and to secure justice for all. You remember that Siaga was the first foreign visitor to Reagan. Reagan vowed to help make Jamaica a model of success for capitalism and ideological conservative alliances. He set up the David Rockefeller Group. They purchased tons and tons of bauxite and alumina for stockpiling. Between 81 to 88, Jamaica borrowed $2.1 billion from the IMF, the World Bank, the IDB. All those loans from the multilateral agencies were concessionary, but they came with harsh conditionalities. We who were living in those times witnessed the social programs being decimated. And the worst sufferers were, of course, the poor and the marginalized. The national growth of 0.9%, which they attained for the decade of the 80s, was not due to any new investment projects. It was attributable to lower oil prices in 1986 and beyond. Meanwhile, the national debt was soaring enormously. These people boast about economic management. Took over when the debt to GDP ratio was 63% in 1980. By 1989, it had ballooned to 262%. They dismantled local government cemeteries, local government services, and Mayor, they left you only to deal with cemeteries and markets. Several hospitals were closed or downgraded. At one time, our net international reserves had fallen precipitously to an all-time low, minus 803 million. Despite this, they failed 4 IMF tests and used a statement from our then General Secretary as a pretext to call the bogus elections in 1983, breaking a solemn commitment not to hold any elections before there was a new electoral voters list. When we came to office in 1989, we inherited an IMF agreement, a World Bank structural adjustment loan, an IDB loan, all of which were dictated according to the gospel of the Washington Consensus. We had no trade preferences any longer for our primary commodities, and we were unable to protect domestic markets by tariffs. Can't do what is being done to the north, and trade quotas had to disappear. Trade quotas. So there was an urgent need for deep reform of the Jamaican economy and its productive base in order for us to compete in the global marketplace. When Michael Manley was leaving, you remember he made an address to the nation. And he said this: the leadership contest will not affect the market economy path, nor our commitment to tourism. The programs of commitment, of empowerment, our commitment to regional integration will not change. For the choices will be between persons who have helped me make all the policies which now guide the actions of the government. I have outlined the background to set the record straight and smash the deliberate plots to distort the truth by those who would prefer us to forget. I won't. They want to perpetuate the myth that they were geniuses at managing the economy and the PNP mash it up. They won't tell you that the Bank of Jamaica had persons buying up US dollars on the illicit market. And notice I said illicit. It was done to prop up their bogus auction system of foreign exchange. They don't want to remind you that they had pre-sold bauxite and alumina, and also future revenues from cable and wireless. So we had no revenues to come from these sources. Julian, they are doing it again. And you are going to find that nothing is coming to you from the Norman Manley Airport. But they claim to be financial wizards.
No new loan.
As we know, I finished Michael's term, and Portia finished mine. So we're dealing with 4 terms together. It's time to set the record straight and tell the story of what we actually accomplished. And I can only give you some snippets of it today. It is time to state clearly, very critical, what is the difference the PNP has always made in order to improve the lot and conditions of our Jamaican people. Lest we forget, we are the People's Party. We put people first.
Always.
Remember when? Before we proceed any further, how many people remember that period in the 80s when the oil tankers in the harbor would not offload the fuel until they got paid? How many people remember the gas lines that were stretching for miles in the hot sun? You remember about when you want to purchase a new vehicle? You go to the dealer, you pay the money in full. When the car arrives, somebody give them a higher price and they give you back your money without interest. You remember? All of that stopped. I think Paulwell was at the trade board at the time. And several people today are doing well because of the cars that we allowed in. But, again, remember me, I'm a country boy. Remember the days of the call boxes? To make phone calls in rural Jamaica and our larger villages, when you had to go up to the street corner. We saw our task in 1989 as having to transform a weak and unstable economy and lay the foundations for sustained growth and development. The man that they have vilified so much, the Minister of Finance, Omar Davies, he managed the macroeconomic indicators so well that we passed 12 IMF tests straight. And as a result of that, by 1995, I was able to say to the IMF, ta-ta and goodbye. I'm coming now to an issue that is very much alive today. And it is about financial management. All that we accomplished was done at the same time that we had to protect 1.5 million deposit accounts and 570,000 insurance policy holders out of our own resources. Let the record show not one of them lost a single dollar.
That's right.
I'm not surprised that there was no final report about FinSAC, because the commissioners could not find what they were sent in to look for. And indeed, the full story had been told in Parliament and was in testimony before the commissioners. When that happened, the multilateral financial institution said to us, yes, we persuaded you to open the system and to grant license because we wanted to have competition in the financial markets. But when they failed, they said to us, this is what a market economy means. They took the risk, let them pay the price, drive it to the wall. As a responsible government, we had to look at questions of trust and confidence. For local depositors, what would it mean to Jamaicans overseas that were sending money back home? We had to look what would be the social consequences of a meltdown. And I think some of you will remember that special conference that I summoned at National Arena. And there is a hard-working farmer, an honest man, a firm Christian believer. I've known him for a very long time. Unlike some, he come to conference, but he don't talk. And I was on the platform, and when I saw Eric Thompson going to the mic, I said, my God, what is he going to say? How many of you remember what he said? He said, comrade leader, made a business what the bank name. All the bank down a Falmouth, a few bank. Because if you never give them license, them couldn't get my money. I am a hard working man, as you know. Anytime me go down there and me ask for my money and me can't get it, me I go back to Daniel Town, and the next words were what really shocked me. And I'm going to sharpen my cutlass, and blood is going to flow like a river down the Martha Brae. And you know the funny thing, that was a Sunday. The Friday passing through Falmouth, and him flagged me down. And he said not one word about his conference presentation. He was complaining to me that Bulbul not pulling him weight in the constituency, and I must get rid of him. Now, after that experience, we put in place the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Company to protect small and medium-sized depositors in full. We also created the Financial Services Securities Commission to regulate institutions that deal with insurance, pensions, and securities in order that investors and depositors would be alerted in advance of any failure and therefore spared any repeat. Now we come to SSL. And I ask, how could any government in their right senses possibly think that the failure of a licensed institution to repay 200 investors whose money has vanished could become an issue of national secrecy? It is a matter which is of concern to the entire nation and our standing in the world. And for them to have thought so borders on lunacy when one of the members is a living legend. I want to be very clear. Nobody is singling out Bolt for any special treatment. He hasn't asked for it, and I don't think he expects it. But the widowers, the pensioners, and all the persons who were robbed have a compelling interest in finding out how the money goes. Usain Bolt is a loyal Jamaican who is an international icon. He's not going to use the same image or rhetoric as his parishioner, Mr. Thompson from North Trelawney also. But the fact is, even if he kept quiet about it, there is an interest because you have some publications that track the income and the worth of athletic stars and of musical stars. So they have been following the story. And when they see a sudden dip in their account, they're going to take notice of it. So it is just sheer stupidity for them to pretend that this thing can happen and the opposition is not going to say anything about it. We're not creating any partisan issue out of it. This is a national issue. By my own profession and disposition, I don't like to engage in rumor, speculation, or gossip. I know there is a legal presumption of innocence to which all accused are entitled. If anyone who thinks that whatever Miss Patterson is accused of doing, if in fact she did anything could be done by her alone, must still believe that the world is flat. Justice demands that the thief or thieves be found and receivers of the stolen money, if any, end up where those who have been convicted by a court of competent jurisdiction go, where criminals belong. Bolt's money was not lost, it was stolen. Plain as daylight. We must not prejudice the right to a fair trial of any accused. But there are issues which, according to our constitutional entitlement of free speech, demand ventilation and not a muzzle. In 1998, Mr. Eric Thompson would have had no legal recourse for a failure of his bank. But now, there's the FSC. Mr. Bolt has very competent lawyers. I do not intend or need to offer them legal advice. But what I would say is, if they have not already done so, the FSC had better pad up a top-class legal team. Because the question is going to arise, has there been a breach of its statutory duties? And they certainly expose themselves to civil action in our courts by any of the or all of the 200 investors whose money has disappeared. I want to move to an area which demonstrates the fundamental difference between our two political parties. The PNP has always endorsed the critical value of strong economic indicators. Let no one tell you otherwise. But the PNP does not believe macroeconomic stability is an end in itself. We recognize it is a vital foundation upon which to build sustained economic growth and lasting social progress. Plainly put, we don't only want a good report card for the multilateral financial institutions, but more so, we want the money and the performance measures to be used as the key to ensuring development in order to accentuate the full release of our human potential and to yield a satisfying quality of life for our Jamaican people. Norman Manley, in 1938, espoused the party's commitment to place an emphasis on the masses who were poor, weak, and vulnerable. That has endured throughout the ages as a priority for all PNP administrations. The party's record of social intervention throughout all its terms in government, from Norman Manley to Portia Simpson Miller, is well documented. Our policy initiatives in the social sector have been consistently based on rigorous analysis that underpin our policies and programs. Setting the record straight. In the 90s, we introduced a poverty index which allowed annual tracking on the impact of cost increases on the entire population and particularly on the lowest income groups. That was the basis for the introduction of the National Poverty Eradication Program. It helped us to identify selected geographical areas, not based on political support, but on the basis of needs, which deserve special interventions in terms of providing physical and social infrastructure. Let the record show we dramatically reduced the poverty line, which was at 28.4% in 1990 to 9.9% in 2007. It is clear that the focus that we placed on the poverty index no longer exists. Why do I say so? Despite the macroeconomic statistics, so many of our families, workers, and those in menial services are today demoralized and discontented. In the last 8 years, we are falling further and further behind on meeting the 2030 Millennium Goals. The party introduced a human resource development program because we believe that the country must invest heavily in human capital if we are to get a qualitative improvement of our daily lives. We believe in shared prosperity, not confined to a special few, but shared equitably. And hence, we shifted focus from poverty alleviation as a welfare benefit to poverty alleviation as a means of providing human justice. Hence, PATH, a social safety net, no longer food stamps and handouts. We sought to alleviate poverty by building capacities for families below the base income line, elderly, disabled, youth at risk. A cricket imagery was made by Mr. Gordon. For us, this was a shock attack on the ranks of poverty and inequality. Health. We don't believe in gimmickry about a free health system that has people waiting for days and days and days. It is on the verge of collapse. Let me refresh your memories. We upgraded and refurbished KPH, Mandeville, St. Anne's Bay, Cornwall Regional, Spanish Town, Bustamante Children. The new Maypen Hospital that we built is the only new hospital built over the last 50 years. We introduced drugs for the elderly. And I will just say this one simply. I heard them asking what would have happened if we had the COVID epidemic and the PNP was in power. And I asked them the question, how would they have survived COVID if it were not for the National Health Fund? And put it simply, very, very simply, the National Health Fund for health is what the National Housing Trust was intended to be. But, Prime Minister in waiting, you have to prepare your plans for the next step to move from a National Health Fund to a national health system. When it comes to education, everybody knows that that is PNP territory. It shouldn't be surprising because teachers were involved in the concept of the PNP. That is how Howard Felix Hanlon Cook came to be a founding member that drew up the Constitution for the People's National Party. I am not able to go into any extensive presentation. I've been begging Damien on education. I said, do for God's sake, take education out to the people, bring back the People's Forum. We have a situation where there's a report presented, a good report, but the stakeholders have no involvement in what it contains. We believe that education is a key driver of social and economic transformation. And it is the more important for technological innovation to build a knowledge society, which is where we are seeking to go. In passing, remember, we reopened the vocational training centers that had been closed. We expanded HEART to embrace the national training agencies. And this is a report from the World Bank. The quintile of tertiary students in Jamaica moved from 6.5% in 1991 to 19.5% by 2004. When I took office, we had one university. When Portia left office in 2007, we had 6. I'm almost embarrassed to mention a comparison in the field of housing. When we completed Greater Portmore in 1995, we had 10,850 houses for that year. That is more houses than they built in any 4 of their years in office. We built 150,000 houses. Where are they in fulfilling their promise to build less than half of that, 70,000? We provided 58,000 families with land titles under Operation Pride. They have handed over 280 social housing units in 7 years. That makes for good photo op. But it would take an eternity to satisfy the demand. To stimulate growth, we created entities that generate economic activity, which expand business enterprises and provide employment. In 2005, we attracted $800 million of investment, mainly in construction, mining, and agro-processing. We built the physical infrastructure, the airport in Montego Bay, the North Coast Highway, water supplies, reliable energy to support hotel development as well. 2 of our local chains grew, Sandals, Super Clubs. We did not forget the small hoteliers. Then there was the Spanish investment. And believe you me, it's difficult for me to stay in the pavilion and watch when they talk as though they are responsible. It is a myth. I don't want to use any imagery from a former leader on their side, how to treat lies. But all I would ask them to do, give credit where credit is due, for it is the right and proper thing to do. Any of you remember when a cell phone was like a briefcase? The availability of cellular phones has increased by 500%. You go through the countryside and the farmer in the cane field has his cell phone. You know what irks me? I saw one time they were putting out something about the Universal Adult Fund, Universal Access Fund, with the then minister proclaiming. I had to go to Washington to talk with the Treasury Department because they were saying that the tax we imposed on calls coming in was in fact a tax on them. We established the Universal Access Fund by levy on all inbound telephone calls to provide broadband island-wide, free Wi-Fi national coverage, and scholarships for those who are engaged in that field. And dare I say that those in the media who are always attacking us, particularly in broadcasting, did it ever occur to them that but for what we did to open the media landscape, they would not exist? And hear me, I'm not asking them to modify their position. All I say, speak the truth and speak it ever, cost it what it will. And that is why we have introduced the Access to Information Act. We introduced the National Commission on Science and Technology to coordinate the programs and develop the linkages with the sector of science and technology in both the public and private sectors. We brought a fresh approach to governance, including building into our programs community participation and ownership. That is how JSIF was born, to support education, training, health, community projects, to stimulate the creative industries and early childhood education. We use money from the Bauxite Fund for the development of projects in villages in the surrounding areas of mining. Tourism Enhancement Fund to spur amenities in destination for visitors and residents alike. The Inner City Development Program, the removal of zinc fences. Let me set the record straight on how we compare on economic growth, because I think it's an insult to our intelligence when they are claiming that they manage the economy better than the PNP. The World Bank data shows that between 1992 and 2006, the economy grew more than is the case between 2016 and 2023. What happened to 5 in 4?
Went through the door.
The Article 4 report card from the IMF that we received in 2006 spoke in glowing terms of what we had accomplished in our own macroeconomic programs designed by us. But we designed those programs mindful of our domestic challenges and social objectives. There can be no argument that in 2007 we left the economy of Jamaica in a much better state than we found it in 1989. The heavy investment in infrastructure and restructuring of the financial sector we undertook represents the vital change which has taken root and opened wide the doors for all the investments in tourism, mining, information and communication technology which has taken place since then. Don't let anyone else claim paternity. Yeah. That is jacket. Yeah. But through it all, as we sought to boost production, we never, ever lost sight of the obligation to secure social justice for all our people. At the same time, and this is not something we get credit for, we worked tirelessly to reduce political tribalism. We do not regard scarce benefits as the spoils of victory. We believe they should be allocated according to needs. And all of this was aimed at reducing political tribalism and thereby eliminate political violence. And I hope the government in its last few months in office will never forget that. It will take another session like this to get the record straight as to what triggered the initial complacent retort in 2012 by the then Minister of Finance when there were banking failures in both the United States of America and the United Kingdom. It is they who took us back to the borrowing window of the IMF. The PNP in 2012 inherited an economy which was faltering. The IMF had stopped sending the money. There's a complete absence of confidence in Washington and external capital markets. Jamaica was in deep mud. No one can deny that it was under the watch of Jamaica's 7th Prime Minister, Portia Simpson Miller, with Dr. Peter Phillips as Minister of Finance, that our international creditworthiness returned to a secure footing. It was the PNP between 2012 and 2016 which laid the course to reduce the debt ratio to GDP and to build up the net international reserves to historic levels. Since then, and I am always fair, there has been a continuation along that path. But no one should be boasting about the present trends and forget which party made us turn the corner again. The People's National Party, or even worse, trying to spread false propaganda. They will preen on the indices and even try to explain when a recession, by classic economic definition, is not in fact a recession. I am not going to get engaged in that semantic row. What I do know is that there are too many families, some with 2 working parents, who simply cannot make ends meet. I know that there are too many young professionals who do not see when, if ever, they will own a home. I read reports in international documents that hunger and malnutrition in Jamaica have reached alarming levels. Why are they surprised that the birth rate is falling? And so, ladies and gentlemen, I believe it is high time, even those who are in slumber and denial, to wake up to the alarming collapse of trust and confidence in the country and the social alienation which is most severe among our disenfranchised youth. As a party, we cannot ignore the breakdown of trust and confidence in Jamaica. Nor will I remain silent when the moral order is under siege and the social order in decay. The institutions which we created to promote good governance are all being castigated and undermined. Even when the Auditor General makes a report that billions and billions of dollars are unaccounted for, she finds herself under attack. We have to change course, and the PNP has to come to the rescue once again in order for us not to go over the precipice. I am sure that the PNP under Mark Golding will in clear and precise terms tell the country how we will ensure transparency and accountability in government, because that is our DNA in the PNP. To those who have sought to pervert history, I ask them, don't confuse your political opinion with the verdict of the people. For the people have spoken loudly and clearly in 93, in 97, and again in 2002. They logged on to progress because we did not forget the poor. Soon, the people will have the right to speak again. It is for us to tell them the story of the policies and programs that benefited the majority of our people, including our workers, the poor, the elderly, the children, and the most vulnerable. Ours is a record of solid achievements. There is no better way to commemorate the majestic century of the immortal Michael Manley than to celebrate a victory when the trumpet sounds and our people answer the call. It is no longer my prerogative to lead on issues of party policy. There's a debate, budget debate coming up. I expect we'll hear from our Minister of Finance designate about the new economy, how we're going to boost innovation, productivity, and the creative arts. I expect to hear from the President when he speaks an outline of the policies in accordance with the fundamental tenets of the PNP. How we're going to get a government which is honest, accountable, and progressive. I have every confidence they will pursue with energy and determination the party's quest to fashion a safe, productive, and quality society. No one, and certainly the laborites, never forget the outcome when I was the man to fly the gate. Whether in 93, 97, and 2002. I know I'm no longer the one to call it. And I don't intend to indulge in prophecy. But I can still read the tea leaves. And the window is closing. I take note that the 48th meeting of heads in Barbados last week accepted an invitation from the government of Jamaica to hold the 49th meeting of heads in Montego Bay on July the 6th to the 8th. So, in what those of us who knew the hurricane poem, June may not be any longer too soon. And I would suggest, party leader, that you issue the order to saddle up, time all your candidates, mount the horses. Let's get ready for whatever that time may come. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing, comrades, absolutely amazing. There are no other words to capture what we just witnessed today. As we reflect on the significance of today's topic, lest we forget, we're reminded that the true measure of political achievement lies not in the accomplishments themselves, but in the lasting impact they have on the lives of individuals and communities. So may the stories we've explored today continue to inspire us to work towards a more just, equitable, and compassionate world. Comrade Leader, those are big shoes to fill, and the charge has been issued to you. And I know, and we are all here to say, we know that you're equal to the task. So with that being said, I invite you to the podium to make your presentation today.
Yeah. We say, oh yes. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Former Comrade Leader, former Prime Minister, Most Honorable P.J. Patterson. Regional Chair, Dennis Gordon, Outreach Chairman, Andre Hilton, my comrade parliamentary colleagues, members of the Shadow Cabinet, His Worship the Mayor of Kingston and St. Andrew, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, comrades all. Yeah. What a tour de force we have had. P.J. Patterson is really a national treasure. Yeah. National treasure. And it is so important in this era where misinformation flies around cyberspace at alarming levels and speed, and where our opponents devote considerable effort to revise history in ways which seek to denigrate understate and otherwise misinform about the achievements and the performance of the People's National Party in the various iterations of government where we have led. Almost as if they realize that if the truth is well understood, it will be obvious to the electorate where the right choice lies. And so I want to commend the Outreach Commission and the regional outreach committees for conceptualizing and implementing these two symposia in which our beloved former party leader and Prime Minister has had this opportunity to, as has been said, set the record straight, lest they forget. And he has done so with great distinction and persuasiveness. And sir, I know your birthday is coming up soon, and all I can say is that you are an example to us all of the power of acuity of mind, the ability to research and to deliver such persuasive content with such ease. And all I know is that you're going from strength to strength, sir. You really are. Really are. And I must tell you what a pleasure it is and how fortunate I feel that you are still so active and so generous with your time and your ideas. And I, for one, have benefited greatly from our interactions, and I look forward to that continuing long into the future. Comrades and friends, we are meeting at a time when Jamaica will be facing the polls in short order. I am pleased to say that your party has its 63 candidates in place. We have been focusing on the preparations for the elections which are coming. We have been strengthening, auditing, fine-tuning our organizations in the constituencies. And we have been making other preparations to ensure that when it comes, we are ready. I ask each and every one of us here, in keeping with and more importantly, for Jamaica later this year. Each one of you can and should find a way to play a role in making that campaign successful, and I implore you all to do so. We are going to be taking the reins of government in very challenging times. We have the world political order going through a process of rapid change, which has created great uncertainties as to how the future will play out. At times like these, we must rely on principle as our guide. And our party has always approached issues of international relations and foreign policy from the standpoint of principle. And we are also committed regionalists, and we see the necessity of tackling some of the emerging challenges on a collective basis, because unity is strength, and we are facing potential challenges that will require us all to pull together as a region to ensure justice prevails when attempts are made to knock us off course. In terms of our economy, Jamaica has achieved significantly debt sustainability through the sacrifices and fixity of purpose of the last 10 to 12 years. I, like others, am very proud of the leadership of Portia Simpson Miller and Dr. Peter David Phillips, who grasped that nettle when it was at its most challenging and deployed the political capital that existed at the time to ensure that we navigated very challenging reforms and high primary surpluses, which meant there wasn't a lot of money around to do other things, and stood by it because the future of our country depended on it. And this government inherited a situation where the heavy lifting had largely been done. The debt to GDP ratio had been brought down from the dizzy heights of over 140% to 115% in just 4 years through a combination of tight fiscal management and creative debt dynamic reorganization. In particular, the deal with the Venezuelan government when we bought back the Petrocarib debt at less than 50 cents in the dollar. Having got the debt to GDP ratio down now to the high 60s, with the target ultimately in law of 60%, we realize that the future requires a different approach. Because even though our debt is no longer the heavy burden that it was, we are, as a nation, in a stagnant economy that is characterized by low GDP per capita levels, way below our peers. So the national wealth is much lower than it should be. We have low unemployment on the official statistics, but vast swathes of our workforce are unskilled and are employed in low-tech and low-wage jobs, where we have the second highest level of brain drain in the world, and where our balance of payments is absolutely dependent on the generosity of the diaspora in supporting Jamaican families through remittances. We have to completely re-engineer our growth model, starting with energy, which is really the key element to a more productive economy. And I'm glad that I have with me Comrade Philip Paulwell, who is a man who always sees the big picture and the opportunities to deliver transformational change in his portfolios. Food security is going to be critical in the era that we're in and what is coming at us. The recent reports of the FAO indicate that 55% of Jamaicans are facing moderate to severe food insecurity, meaning that they are unable to have a balanced and nutritious diet, and many of them are underfed. We have to deal with that situation. And Jamaica is blessed with tremendous potential to produce food which is in demand here and abroad. And we need to focus on our agriculture and agro-industry and ensure the necessary inputs and support for our farmers are put in place so that we can achieve a much higher level of food security for our people. The education and health sectors are both categorized by a sense of crisis. Comrade Patterson outlined the situation in the healthcare sector, where if you have to interact with a public health facility and you need to be admitted, you are in a very perilous situation where you could be facing protracted delays in very uncomfortable conditions. And even though you may eventually get a bed, though there's no guarantee, when you have to deal with the costs of the diagnostic tests, because the equipment is largely not working in the public hospitals and this is being outsourced, and you have to purchase all the various medical inputs at tremendous costs, you realize that to be poor is really a crime in this country because of what our people have to go through. In education, we are a mixed bag. We have centers of excellence, institutions of excellence that are performing at levels comparable with anywhere else in the world. And yet we also have significant deposits of underachievement and underperformance, which are shown in the statistics that over 30% of the children leaving primary school and entering secondary school in Jamaica cannot read and write, cannot do basic arithmetic, and lack the facility for critical thinking. That is a recipe for national disaster, because those children enter secondary school without the basics, which the curriculum at secondary school level assumes that they have. There are no proper arrangements put in place to remediate that situation, and many of them end up leaving school with nothing to show for it, and their prospects in a highly competitive world are dim. And of course, we know the avenues that many of them feel compelled to pursue, and that is what is feeding our problems of high levels of violent crime. We have to have a strong policy to remediate this situation in the early childhood and primary sectors. We have to deal with the realities in the secondary system. For those who are in it and are not at the levels that they need to be, we can bring them back up. And we have to deal with the financing of tertiary education in a way that makes education accessible to our people who need it most, especially those from low-income families. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to be making a big policy speech, but I just wanted to highlight the fact that we are in a new era, and an era which requires new solutions and new approaches. But we're up to the task, and we'll be doing it with clean hands and a clean heart, governing the country with integrity, and restoring trust and confidence in the political leadership of the country. A situation which is at the lowest ebb it has ever been, with a Prime Minister who has been under investigation by the Integrity Commission, can't have his integrity declaration certified, is suing the Integrity Commission, seeking to strike down Jamaica's anti-corruption laws, and there are 8 parliamentarians who are known to be under investigation for illicit enrichment and sitting in the parliament. And of course, in any decent democracy, they would disclose that so that electors know who they are and whether they're seeking re-election. So this is a time when we will have to take these issues extremely seriously and ensure that we build back the trust and confidence in the democratic processes of Jamaica, because those processes are under threat, not only here, but across the world. And it is only through doing the right thing and using the power reposed in us to uplift our people and to use the resources that are available to us exclusive for the benefit of the people, that we will ensure that democracy survives and the freedoms that we enjoy will be prolonged into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I have one main task tonight, and that is to introduce to you, we are in Region 3, and I wish to introduce to you all of our candidates who are going to run, other than those who are already members of parliament. So I'm going to just need to borrow my phone though. To ensure I don't leave anyone out, I have a list. And when I call their names, I'm going to ask them please to come up and to just stand on the lower level so that when everyone is gathered, then Comrade Patterson and I will stand up behind and we'll have a nice photo opportunity. So I'm going to, and I'm not taking this in any particular order, I'm taking the order that was given to me. So the first candidate that I will call to stand right here is an attorney at law, graduate of Kingston College and the University of the West Indies, a man who has acquitted himself well at the criminal bar and has proven himself to be a formidable candidate in the constituency of East Rural St. Andrew. I call on Comrade Patrick Peterkin to come forth and stand right there, Patrick. The next person, the next comrade I will call is the daughter of one of the great stalwarts of our movement. She has had a career which has spanned various sectors, but has been particularly involved in financial services. She is a very principled person and committed to serving people with a sense of love. And I believe that when she becomes the Member of Parliament for Eastern St. Andrew, she will be transforming that constituency and bring it to a better place. I bring to you Comrade Patricia Duncan Sutherland. Our next candidate is also an attorney at law, and she is the daughter of another luminary of the People's National Party. The sheriff is here, and his daughter is in town. And she is taking on the task of challenging for the seat where I live and vote, Northeast St. Andrew, a seat which we haven't won for a long time, but where she's facing an opponent who is nearer the departure lounge than anywhere else. And she's bringing to it incredible energy and is getting tremendous support. And I call on Comrade Stacey Knight to join us on the platform. The next candidate is also an attorney at law. He recently established his own firm, having previously worked in the public sector. He is also our deputy spokesperson for foreign affairs and foreign and regional affairs, and has acquitted himself well in that area. He has taken on another challenging seat, North Central St. Andrew, and he's bringing a fresh approach to a seat where the incumbent has been there for longer than any of us cares to remember. But he will not be running back, and so it represents a tremendous, as far as we know, so it represents a tremendous opportunity to bring a new change there. And I know that Christopher Henry is up to the task. Our next candidate is not an attorney at law. She is a development specialist with a great interest in community development, women's affairs, and agriculture. She grew up in rural Jamaica, but she has taken on the task of bringing home Northwest St. Andrew for the People's National Party. And she's doing it with a zeal and fervor which I think has her opponents on the back foot and wondering what has happened to them. And We're very happy with what we're seeing there, and we're looking forward to her doing extremely well and bringing it home. And I speak of no other than Comrade Ethne Miller Simpson. Our next candidate is none other than the regional chairman. And he is a businessman who has built a remarkable business, providing services, labor and other services, and also in the health field. He's pioneering a new business to bring more cost-effective medication and procedures to Jamaica for the benefit of less well-off persons. He has a great experience in land resettlement and upliftment of communities that have been traditionally underserved, and was very involved in the program that delivered those 58,000 titles, which we spoke about. Comrade Pete, and I'm bringing you Comrade Dennis Gordon, East Central St. Andrew. The next candidate is a man who served and protected for many, many years and built a reputation as a fair and fearless crime fighter. A man who also was able to build tremendous relationships with the people in the communities that he served as a police officer, and is highly regarded in the force today. And I bring to you Steve McGregor for Central Kingston. And last, but by no means least, two more? Okay. Yes, I have two more. Thank you. I now bring to you a powerhouse, a dynamo, an organizational genius who has the capacity to work at levels that put the rest of us, I wouldn't say to shame, but definitely in a different class. She has proved herself since joining our party as somebody who can deliver turnaround in fortunes, and played a major role in the 7 Love whipping that we gave the Labour Party in the local government elections in Hanover. She has gone into West Rural St. Andrew, where she has an opponent who we would all like to see get us a good beating in the next elections. I bring to you Comrade Joan Gordon Webley. And you can see we have a decent gender balance up here. And we put a lot of effort in, encouraged by our president of the women's movement and others to make sure that happened. And last but not least, we have a seasoned politician, a man who has won a seat before which many thought we could never win. A man who has served in government in the same program dealing with land settlement and community upliftment for underprivileged areas, where he acquitted himself with aplomb. A former footballer and cricketer of distinction, and a man who hails from the great constituency of South St. Andrew, which I have the privilege to represent now, but who is going to be taken home, back home to the People's National Party, no other seat than West Central St. Andrew, which has a long tradition of being in the column of the People's National Party, and where we see the opportunity to restore that tradition again. I bring to you Comrade Paul Buchanan. So comrades, there you have it. These are our candidates other than the ones who are already in Parliament. Myself, Comrade Philip, Comrade Tony, Comrade Angela, and who else? Comrade Julian. Thank you very much. So at this point, I would just say, let us gather behind Comrade PJ. No?
We don't have time, come. Time come. I have to say, this evening has been impressive. We have a true visionary and stalwart in former party leader PJ Patterson, who without a doubt set the record straight. The Fresh Prince did his thing. And then we heard from our party leader. Can't call him the new kid on the block, but he will be fresh out of the blocks when that trumpet is called. And as he says, will take over the reins of the new government. We saw the candidates in front of you, and I'm sure you now feel, you thought before, but now you know and you feel that your future is in good hands with this slate of candidates that we have presented today. And comrades, let me tell you, today we have shared the proceedings not only amongst ourselves in the room. We had it on BOJTV, we had it on DigiPlay, we had it on Flow, so you can believe that this is going to be a circuit that the comrade chairman of the Outreach Commission will continue across the other regions. So keep looking out, keep supporting, keep watching, and understand when we say, time come and we are ready. Comrades, time come and we are ready. And the party leader gave you a charge. Each and every one of us in here can play a role in ensuring that we are victorious in the next general elections. So whether you want to work on a small team, a big team, you want to just work in your community, for those of you who want to do it behind the scenes, there is always a role to play. Just put up your hand, let us know, and of course you will be engaged. Now, I'm not about to drag out the proceedings, but just to say, We are very, very appreciative of the support. And for those of you who are here and look around and see that the room is full, we know that we have a message that is resonating. Time come.
Make the trumpets play. Make the trumpets play. Jamaican people want better. Economy coming like stormy weather. Ancestors.
So, tonight we are reminded that our chairman of Region 3, Mr. Dennis Gordon, made this happen. And we want to thank you for your steadfast leadership. To Mr. Ludlow, Lloyd Renix, Heather Robinson, Dallas Campbell, our esteemed members of Parliament, senators, former Vice President Damian Crawford, your presence here is more than symbolic. It is a declaration that we are not alone in this fight for truth, for legacy, and for the future of Jamaica. Tonight we're reminded that history may be misquoted, but it can never be rewritten. The truth, like a river, may bend but never break. It flows through generations, nourishing the roots of our identity and the branches of our aspirations. Our candidates who continue to stand firm in the service of the people, the Region 3 outreach leadership who work tirelessly to mobilize and engage, we say thank you. Thanks to our decorators whose work transformed the space into a fitting occasion and venue for tonight's proceedings. To BOJTV, Portmore TV, Love TV, Flow, and DigiPlay for ensuring that our message reached far and wide, and most importantly, beyond these walls. To the sound team for amplifying the voices of truth and justice. To Summit House for hosting us and providing a platform for such an important conversation. Steve Ashley, again Heather Robinson, Carl Blake, Dennis Gordon, Kerry-Ann Erskine, and the rest of the team, Marlon and his bar team, for your unwavering support and contributions, and of course, to the Most Honorable Percival James Patterson. Your legacy of leadership continues to inspire us. And to our comrade leader, whose presence and dedication we acknowledge with gratitude. Thank you. Comrades, friends, well-wishers, we ask you all to stand. And I think we've done that now, so we can proceed.
The trumpet has sounded, my countrymen all, so awake from your slumber and answer the call. The torch has been lighted, the dawn is at hand. Who joins in the fight for his own native land? Land of my birth, I pledge to thee, loyal and faithful.
Comrades, the word is love. Walk good and see you at the next one.